Hi, I'm Stephanie, and you're listening to At Home with AI, relatable AI for regular people. Today, I have a little story about a parenting win involving a pair of Nikes, a snowy afternoon, and a little bit of AI. It started because my son picked out a really cool pair of shoes. And after we picked him out, we realized we never actually taught him how to tie his shoes. And I feel like this is a very 2026 problem, right? Anyway, we were stuck inside. It was a snowy weekend and there wasn't a lot to do. So we decided it was finally time for Shoelace boot camp. Our goal was simple but ambitious. We wanted to teach him to confidently tie his shoes in just 1 hour. Now, the thing about teaching something complex like tying shoes is that it's frustrating. It's frustrating for the parent and it's definitely frustrating for the kid. But I wanted to lean into something interesting I noticed, and that's that kids are sometimes more likely to listen to advice from someone who is not their parent. You know, sometimes that's like a relatable teacher or a friend's older sibling, but sometimes an outside voice carries more weight somehow. And I've noticed that phenomenon also happens when my kid asks a large language model something. We're usually using Gemini because I have Gemini live on my phone. When I ask Gemini a question with my kid, he's like more excited to try the advice. So we tried it and it worked. And an hour later, he could tie his shoes. So I'll tell you how we did it and how we use Gemini to do this. So I started by chatting Gemini, and I did this with my son, and I asked him a little bit about how he thought we should ask. So I chatted, okay, my son, who's 8 years old, wants to learn how to tie his shoes in an hour. Can you make us a plan of how to structure our learning? And Gemini gave us a pretty thorough plan, which we printed out and then used. And something I really liked was it had 3 pieces of advice that were especially great. One was to master the basics before moving on, like don't learn it all at once. So it suggested practicing the overhand knot for a few minutes before moving on to the loops. And that was really great to get that basis. It also recommended a style of learning called I do, we do, you do. And this was really helpful. So first, I demonstrate as the parent. That's the I do part. Then I actually place my hands over his to complete the motion together. That's the we do. And then finally, he tries it on his own with only my verbal assistance, and that's the you do. The other thing it recommended was to build muscle memory by doing it 3 times successfully in a row. And it also reminded us not to forget celebrating when we actually learn how to do it. So I've mentioned before that LLMs, large language models like Gemini, are inconsistent, and that's true here also. So you might go to Gemini with exactly the same question, and it might recommend a different plan for you, and that's normal. Shoe tying is a bit subjective. There's a lot of opinions about how to do it. So these AI models give a slightly different answer every time. That's totally normal and expected. And remember that you're in the driver's seat. You can guide the advice and ask follow-up questions if you don't like the plan it gives you the first time. So if you got a milestone you're struggling to hit, maybe give this kind of AI coaching a try. Let me know how it goes, and thanks for listening.